Today we are exploring the Model Context Protocol, MCP, and how it can be useful in order to learn new skills like developing your own game. First, what is MCP? The MCP allows your LLM to use tools like getting the current weather from an external API, create files on your local computer, or to let an AI access your calendar and let someone book an appointment. The MCP server provides tools, resources, and prompts for the MCP client, which can be an LLM application like Claude Desktop, Claude Code, VS Code, or your personal AI agent. It provides an industry standard which allows you to connect any LLM provider like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, or your local private LLM to the server and work with the tools or resources that you provide. In our case, we want to see how game development can be accelerated by using Claude with the Unity MCP server. First, I will show you how to set this up in Claude Desktop with a free account. Then I will try to achieve certain goals. First, adding a very simple game object to the active scene and see how this works in general. Second, working with packages and custom prefabs. Third, improve the scene with some houses and better visuals. And final, adding a simple game mechanic and a user interface. For each section, I will give 1 to 5 stars depending how Claude performed in my opinion. First, you need to download the repository from GitHub coplaydev/Unity MCP by clicking on code and download zip. Then simply extract it somewhere in your file directory. We create a new Unity URP project, and I'm currently on Unity 6.3. Call it MCP demo. Now open the package manager and install package from disk. Select the package JSON and wait till it's done. This will only work if you have Python and UV installed. Click on Done. And you'll find the MCP for Unity under Window, and then you can toggle MCP Window. It's important to note that you have to change the connection from HTTP local to standard in-out. We select Claude Desktop with a free account. So you have to select standard in-out, start the session, then click on configure, and you should be fine. So you can first test whether this has been implemented. And as you see here, Unity MCP is added to your list of MCP servers. And you can also see that it's working inside of Claude Desktop. In the active scene, create a plane as a ground. And we have to allow it to manage game objects in order to create it. This seems to work flawlessly. So now coming to the rating, it performed the task without any confusion. It demonstrates good GameDev understanding because it explains why it added the mesh collider. And finally, it was also very quick. So I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Right. The next step is adding a third-person controller from an asset. Unfortunately, the MCP is not able to perform this task, so I have to manually add the package to the project. Now I try to explicitly add the third-person prefab to the scene. And it even added the player follow camera object because it guessed that this would be my goal. In my opinion, it should have checked for concurrent cameras here to ensure that there's only one main camera. In the end, I could not nudge it into the right direction, so I just did the remaining parts manually. Since the package already comes with a suitable third-person prefab, I just added this one to the project and deactivated the mobile controls and objects added by Claude. And eventually, I also got rid of the concurrent main camera. So as you see, debugging may waste quite some time and tokens if you're not familiar with Unity at all. So this was a bit disappointing since it doesn't have the capability to add packages to the project. This would have helped me a lot, but at least it found the correct package that it would need, and this already saves me quite some time, especially if I have a long list of packages and my search term is not on point. Also, it explains how to import it. Unfortunately, it was not able to identify some issues with the project, but I think if I would have spent more tokens, I could have built a working player controller eventually. Here I rated 3 out of 5. The next mission is a small environment where I ask it to place 4 houses with different visuals. They look quite strange to me, but at least the scale is okay, and it was only the first attempt. So I want to change the roofs and being able to enter the house. Unfortunately, the roofs are upside down, so I try to solve this here, which directly works. However, it did not create a proper house so that I could enter them, but for now I just focus on the visuals. Claude creates a proper material folder in the project and adds all kinds of materials. Unfortunately, most of them are just white, so I fixed this in the next prompt. Then I recognize some strange clipping and ask Claude to remove it by making the roof a bit larger, and this directly fixes the clipping issue. So we could successfully create those houses from primitive Unity objects. Of course, you can optimize a lot, but overall, I'm quite happy with the result, especially for the time that I spent for creating this toy environment. But I have to say it has not added the materials properly, and I would expect that it can also cause some deeply rooted problems if Claude changes some base material which could have side effects on some important game objects. What surprised me is the very good spatial awareness for this model. The sizes and distances look really convincing. The houses and doors could be a little bit larger and the colors a bit more diverse, but those are just some minor things. Here I rate Claude 4 out of 5. And now I ask Claude to create some collectible yellow balls and also add a counter. It directly adds a new script folder and adds the respective scripts to all objects. But it also changed the material of the ground, so this proves the point that it can also cause some problem with already existing objects. The collectible items work fine, and Claude has even added a graphical user interface before I wanted to mention it. However, I cannot see the canvas that displays the counter, and I asked Claude what could be the reason for this. It directly points into the right direction, and I think both green spaces should be fine in this case. So after starting the game, the counter appears and displays the current score, which brings me to the final score for this test. Claude has a good game dev understanding and even thinks ahead, which accelerates the whole process. It creates a reasonable structure in your project and is able to build simple mechanics. The only downside is that it sometimes forgets to change an attribute, but it can also point you in the right direction to fix the issue. Here I rate Claude 4 out of 5. To sum it up, in my opinion, Claude and especially the Unity MCP can be a very good assistant in your game dev process, and I rate it 4 out of 5 on average. For quick prototyping, it can be quite useful, especially for people who are just starting in Unity. But this experiment was also just a first step, and if you're interested in a more advanced game dev vibe coding project with MCP servers and clients, just leave me a comment. And as always, if you like the video, it would be nice if you could hit the like and subscribe button, and see you in the next video.